5 years of house hacking this duplex, and I'm finally gonna convert from long-term tenants to a short-term rental. But in the process of converting this house hack into an Airbnb, at least on that side, you know me guys, my process is I always seek out experts and other real estate investors in the market that I want to invest in, and then I network with them and get them to give me all of their answers. I copy off of their homework, I plagiarize, I lie, cheat, and steal, minus the lying and the stealing part. But I cheat and I get their answers from them so that I can be successful without having to go through all of the process of learning it, trial by fire, the processes of going through one error after the other and making a bunch of mistakes. So in this interview, part one of this interview is with my friend Matt Garry, who's an Airbnb expert in this area with an Airbnb that's making $5,000 to $8,000 a month in profit, only about a half a mile away from me, very similar location and style of house. So, if you like this video, please stay tuned for the interview. There's gonna be 3 different segments because we spoke for over an hour. I hope you guys like it. How's it going, guys? It's your boy Mike from Seattle, and right now we have the privilege of being in someone's house that is an expert at Airbnb. This is my friend Matt. He is this Airbnb, and the reason that we're here is because the tenants in my duplex are moving out, and I'm considering doing short-term rentals. Matt and I met at the Dion Talk Financial Freedom local Tacoma FI meetup. That's where we became friends. Yep. And I first heard of his amazing success and how well he's doing with his Airbnb. So quick, Matt, why don't you give us a little bit of your background? When did you start investing in real estate? What did you do before? When did you reach financial independence?
Sure.
Tell us about you.
Okay. Well, thanks for having me here. This is fun. This is cool. So I've been a serial entrepreneur now for a little over 20 years. I haven't had a boss in a little over 20 years. So and I couldn't imagine actually going back to that if I needed to. So I've had a lot of little companies over the years, and just in the last few did I start to focus on real estate. And I was really trying to decide what to do, how to go about doing it. Should I have a long-term rental? Should I have a midterm, short-term? Should I go to the Midwest, like you're the expert at, and buy 5 properties for the price of one here in Seattle? And I was actually looking at Arizona for a while, as that was a hot market. I'm a guy who likes to do a lot of research. So when it came down to it, I spent, without having analysis paralysis, I spent, I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months looking into where exactly I want to do this. And I was trying to see what would be the most profitable. And I was really looking in the Phoenix area because you could get a good deal down there, and it was a hot market as well. But in the end, I decided that I really wanted to focus on something local to me for at least my first property, so that I could really be as hands-on as I wanted or needed to be. And so I bought a house just locally, and it's probably 35 minutes from my house. But I did a lot of research. It's in the town of Bonnie Lake, and if you know the Seattle area, you might be thinking, well, Bonnie Lake, why on earth would anyone buy a short-term property in Bonnie Lake? And that's where my sense of looking really, really into backgrounds of area and doing a lot of research really came into play. Because you can do research on an area and actually find the sweet spots. Okay, so Bonnie Lake, if you know the Seattle area, there's nothing specifically special about it. However, there are a lot of weddings that happen around here. There was a big event happening in August. They always did the Renaissance Fair, just about a mile from here. But outside of that, to someone who doesn't live in Washington, and we do get a lot of tourists out here, this is a very, believe it or not, centrally located town. So I market. It's only an hour north to Seattle. It's only an hour south to Mount Rainier. It's only an hour, 45 minutes east to skiing in the mountains. And it's only a half hour west to Puget Sound. So if you've never been to Washington, you want to see the town or see the city, the state, this is a very centralized location. But also, and this was, a year and a half ago that I bought this property, there was a shortage in Bonnie Lake specifically of 4-bedroom houses. Okay. So if I wanted to buy something and all I could afford was a 2-bedroom house, I would not have bought this. I would not have bought in this area. That would have been a bad decision. But supply and demand, just like in any other industry, a 4-bedroom house was a sweet spot where I could make a lot of money. And so then I went and specifically looked for a property that was unusual. Okay, so a lot of people tend to go, okay, what can I afford? And how hard is it going to be? I just need to decorate a house, right? Or I just need to put furniture in a house. Although that's true, to make money and make a lot of money, which is what I've done here, I put a lot of thought process into it. Okay, so I bought this house. It is a 1962 mid-century modern design styled home. Okay, so it has a very unusual look to the roof line, to the way the layout is. It actually has 5 sets of stairs in it. It's pretty wild. But everything that I bought in this house, from the plates to the couches to the bedroom colors, the bedroom furniture, to the curtains that you see all over the place, to the custom television that I had designed, to the tiki room that I put downstairs in the basement, all of that was with the sense of marketing, where I could look and I could say, I'm going to buy this property to give someone not just a place to stay, but an experience. The goal of a good short-term rental is to give customers an experience so that they choose your house over the one that's right down the street that might be even cheaper. And a lot of cities, especially touristy areas, if you go into downtown Seattle, downtown Tacoma, or Orlando, Florida, or whatever it might be, there's so many people buying these short-term properties that you end up with a supply and demand issue, and then they all start to race to the bottom on price. And then it gets cheaper and cheaper, and then you're not making any money, and then you bow out of it. So I know that was a really long-winded answer, but that's kind of the basis of where I was going with this property.
Yeah, and so we will do like some general shoots. I mean, this is very cool. The decoration, the green furniture, the TV that you were talking about. I mean, everything about this thing is phenomenal. So when I think about short-term rentals and I think of Bonnie Lake, there's something that immediately comes to my mind as I live in this area too, is there's not a single hotel in the entire city of Bonnie Lake.
That's right. Actually, when I specifically applied for my business license here, they didn't even know what to do at the city. They were like, we have no hotels here. We have no background for what we're doing. So this was also a good town as far as the laws are concerned, because a lot of the different cities have issues with short-term rentals.
Well, no hotel lobbies are going to come in and bully the city around. There's no hotels here. But what's interesting is surrounding cities of Sumner and Enumclaw both also have no hotels, at least not that I know of. You have to go all the way to Puyallup or Tacoma or Auburn to get a hotel. And like you said, very popular wedding destination. You have a beautiful view of the mountain in Bonnie Lake from most areas of the city. There's a very popular wedding venue, Kelly Farms up there. I mean, there's weddings there no matter rain or shine. Doesn't matter if it's sunny or whatnot. It's always someone's getting married. So what I wanted to ask about, now I know you've dabbled also in midterm rentals, because I remember you explained to me one time that you had an insurance company rent out your entire, and I don't know if it was this property.
Yeah, it was this property.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so a lot of people that focus on the midterm market like to do, for example, the website Furnished Finder, where it's where you can find a lot of the travel nurses, and there is money to be made there. But I've found that if I focus on the VRBO and AirBNB market as also a midterm market, which most people don't do that. They look at it as, I'm going to rent out for a weekend or whatever it might be. However, insurance companies, for example, will look at whatever they can find. So they might look at Furnished Finder. They can look at Airbnb. They can look just on the internet in general. And so I've had circumstances where they've reached out to me, whether it was I've had someone who their house had a tree fall on it, and they had to rent for 4 weeks. No, they had to rent for 2 months. And then I had someone else who was moving to the area, and so their company, a Microsoft or something like that, was paying for them to move, and they just needed something for a long period of time, and that was already furnished, that they really could just kind of come into. And so when you can take your short-term rental and actually use it for midterm as well, then there's, I mean, those were $12,000, $13,000 months. I mean, they're just absurd because the customer wasn't paying for it, the insurance company was.
Right.
And so the insurance company just, they don't like to pay out.
Yeah.
But when a customer's been giving them so much money, and like you said, there aren't hotels, there aren't the long-term hotels here that you could force somebody to stay in. And another factor too is I accept pets.
Right.
So a lot of people have dogs, for example, and I charge I charge a couple $100 just to have a dog just be in here.
Sure.
But it's worth it because you just get a lot more people that potentially can rent from you, especially in that midterm market.
Right. So I think, what I want to do is hammer in on some specifics because first of all, people are familiar with Airbnb and VRBO.
Yep.
I want to get to the differences there, but I want to talk about when I go, because I use Airbnb all the time when I travel. I like to have a kitchen. I hate having to pay for every meal. I like being able to just throw a pizza in the oven. And so when it comes to an Airbnb, you have the regular fee for renting out the unit. Then you also have a cleaning fee, and then you have pet charges if you have pets. And a lot of people have a lot of heartache and heartburn over the cleaning fees. They're confused about it or they don't want to pay it. Can you explain to us, is the cleaning fee, is it because you're hiring out a maid service or you're cleaning it? Can you charge it if you're cleaning it? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so the way I have it here, because this is a 4-bedroom house, I have a housekeeper who does come in after every single guest, whether it's 3 times a week or once a week or whatever it might be after the guests leave. And so what I charge is for the guests is also what I just give to my housekeeper.
Okay.
And so it's a wash for me. Right. I'm not, the goal isn't to make money off of that. That being said, I have a $20 difference between what my housekeeper makes and what I get from the customer. And that basically covers the towels and sheets that are just constantly being replenished.
Right.
But I also, at a good Airbnb, and I get compliments all the time from guests, this is the most stocked Airbnb they've ever seen. So I have, yes, I have salt and sugar, but I also have hot cocoa and tea, and
creature comforts,
and every bit of anything you could possibly want in the kitchen is in there, and that's of course also in theme. Like I have the coffee maker also in the matching teal, for example, and it looks like it was early '60s, even though it wasn't. And so people really like the fact that I have this so well stocked that they could just come in and just go.
Right.
They don't have to. I mean, obviously they have to bring their own food in, but outside of that, they can just live here by just literally opening up the door with the keypad and coming on in.
Yeah, and it is very nice. I like it when it's a very seamless check-in process, and I know I like it when Airbnbs are stocked because, as I said, I like to make a pizza. When I walk in, there's no pizza pan. It's like, no toaster. It's like, oh my gosh, I got this thing so to have a kitchen. There's 3 plates in the whole house. Give me at least a few. I've got 4 people with me. So when it comes to making the decision as to go with Airbnb versus VRBO, what are some of the differences between those 2 platforms?
So they do charge different amounts. I can't say which one I like better or worse because they both have positives and negatives to them. I trust VRBO's insurance a bit better than Airbnb. They have this capability that guests can be forced to pay for insurance. And it's something like $69 to $89, something along those lines. And that in itself covers up a huge amount of if there's going to be a problem. That makes me feel a little bit better. Other than that, the fees are a little bit here and there. I find it advantageous to be on both platforms because all they are marketing. People look at them as that's where you should be taking, putting all, you shouldn't have other ways to get clients but all they are doing when all they're taking money for is the fact that they're advertising you, that someone can go to Airbnb.com and find your property. That's not the only way to do it, but that's what they're there for. They're both fine. I've had 99% of my guests have been great because I charge. I'm on a higher tier that I don't have the people that are going to destroy the house. But in the end, the negatives have come from both sides as well. Early on, I'd have people that would try to come in and have a party, and now I know the red flags to look out for, so that doesn't happen. And so they're both fine. And with housekeeping, like you said, a lot of people have problem with the fees and all of that. However, the housekeeping is something that the way I have it set here is I don't have this long list of rules. Okay. A lot of people, and I've even seen it in advertising from hotel companies where they're like, don't use Airbnb because you're going to have to clean the shed and you're going to have to, take out all the garbage and all that and do the chores and do all the chores. and so, but I look at it as like, you are a guest here and you paid money for the housekeeper. So all I tell people to do when they leave, I have this list, or I have this note that says, don't worry about the sheets. Don't worry about the garbage. You're on vacation. Please make sure you lock the doors and windows when you leave and drive safely. Right. And that's it. That's it. And that makes people go, okay, I spent that money for the housekeeping. Yeah. I don't have to do all those ridiculous things that make me want to go somewhere else.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely important. I know it's very frustrating. A lot of people complain about that. Like, I don't want to do all this extra stuff. Like, I want it to be like a hotel. You can leave it in not terrible condition in terms of things being broken. But if you wanted to at a hotel, rip up all the sheets and dump them in the corner of the room and take all the towels and dump them in the corner of the room, that doesn't add any extra price. It's just you're considered weird by the hotel staff. Yeah. So, okay. All right. So you had mentioned earlier the red flags with certain tenants. You said, I've come to learn what some of the red flags are. So can you tell us what those red flags are? What should you watch out for? Okay.
So the red flags took me a few parties and a few complaining neighbors before I figured out what they are. Okay, there are 3 red flags before I will turn someone down. Okay, they can get 2 of them, they're still good. Okay, all 3, no. Right. Okay, if they are local. Okay. All right. If they're coming from Seattle, there's nothing wrong with that by itself. Right. All right. If they are booking last minute. Okay, they're booking for tonight. Or tomorrow. Okay. Nothing wrong with that. People come in from other parts of the country or whatever. They have something going on this weekend. They need a place to stay. Nothing wrong with that. And the third, no reviews.
Oh, no reviews on them. They just made their profile.
They just made their profile. Again, a lot of people, you have to start somewhere. Everybody has a brand new profile once. If they're coming from Seattle, okay, that's fine. All 3 of these, one of them's fine. 2 of them are fine. All 3 of them, not fine. All 3 of them means in strong likelihood, they're going to have a party, especially in a larger home. Right. Okay. Because people don't book all 3 of those things last minute like that.
Yeah. And having a party of 50 people in your house is not exactly what you want to have happen.
No, you want to keep your neighbors happy. That's more important than anything because the neighbors are the ones who can call the cops and ruin a guest's positive experience. They can also become problematic as far as with the cities or with local laws, or as you hear in other towns that suddenly start to make these problems. It's because people are having parties, and owners don't want the parties. Airbnb doesn't want the parties. VRBO doesn't want the parties. Nobody wants the parties except for the guests who try to get the parties in there. So,
well, we were all young and dumb at one point, and the 22, 23-year-olds are just trying to have a good time, and here we are just shutting it down. Well, that's on them. So, okay, so tell us a little bit more specifically, and I know these numbers wouldn't be translatable to everywhere in the country, for instance. Every area is going to have different things. But one thing that I was wondering about was occupancy rates. We got approximately 30 days in a month. How many days of the month are you rented out?
Okay, that's a good question because a lot of homeowners look at this wrong. Okay, a lot of homeowners, their goal is to get 100% occupancy. You do not want that. You want the highest amount of income relative to the occupancy. So if I'm only booked 80% of the time, but I'm making as much money as I would at 100% of the time, charging less, it's better to do the 80% because of wear and tear on the house. That's more important than anything. Furniture is expensive. And it's one of those things, you don't want to go through a couch every 3 months because people are just dancing on it every single day. Because although most guests are fine, the ones that bring little kids and the one that bring dogs generally are the ones that cause damage to the property. And so the goal is to have that sweet spot on price. I use a company called Price Labs, worth its weight in gold. It's like $30 a month. I tell every other owner I know about it, because what that app does is it pulls information from your property, but all the competing properties in the area. And you can kind of pick the area as far as if it's, depending on the city that you're in, if it's only a 3-mile radius that matters, if you're in, a downtown corridor, or if it's a wide, more rural suburban area like we're in. And of course, factors like I have a hot tub. So that's going to make the price a little bit higher. But it basically pulls information constantly every single day and says, oh, okay, well, that one that was competing with you, that one just booked up, so occupancy rates are higher, or there's less. There's higher demand, less supply in town. The prices should go up, and it does it automatically. So a lot of people, when they open up their accounts, and you do this, you could do this in Airbnb, and you could say, I'm just going to charge $200 a night. Terrible thing to do. It's a starting point, but I actually have a friend who has a property up in, I'm going to say Mill Creek, which is just northeast of Seattle, wine country.
I used to live there too.
Yeah, and he was doing that. He was charging like $150 a night, and he was booked 100% of the time, happy as a clam. I'm making so much money. And I said, okay, try just for a month, because it's free for like a month or something like that. Just try it for a month. And he called me the next day, and he's like, these prices are ridiculous. What they're thinking I should charge, it's ridiculous. And I said, just turn it on.
Just try.
See what happens. And I didn't talk to him for like a month and a half. And like the next time I saw him, he came over and gave me a big hug. He was like, oh my God, I can't believe sometimes people are giving me $1,000 a night.
Oh my God.
Because supply and demand, I've got a cool house. It's the middle of August on a Saturday, wedding season, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He was going up a little bit because it's busier in Seattle in the summertime. No, it goes up and down every single weekend of the year. And if you know exactly what your competition is, which is impossible as one person, unless you're staying on it all the time and doing research every day, having an app that does that, totally worth it to do.
So it's called Price Labs.
Price Labs, yeah.
And it integrates with the Airbnb app and like sets your prices for
Correct. Yeah, you basically you authorize it like any app on any website, and it connects to your VRBO, and it connects to your Airbnb and other ones as well. And it basically it does some research of what your base price should be, and then you could agree with it or disagree with it and play with it as it recommends, and it changes over time, and you can go up and down, and then you see like the Tuesdays and Wednesdays, the price has gone down, but as it gets later in the week, suddenly the price goes up. And then that changes depending on what else is out there and the time of year, because it knows in Seattle, it's much busier here in August than it is in February.
Right. Okay. So very interesting because now one more question on the Price Labs. It auto changes the prices in the app for you. It doesn't just tell you and then you have to change it. It auto changes the prices. Correct.
But there's a lot of manual things that you should keep on. Yes, you can push a button and just have it go, but you shouldn't do that. You should check on it. And I believe they recommend, and this is what I do like once a week, to just make sure that it's the things are staying within a certain level. There's also rules that you can create too that might be perfect for your individual property. Like, for example, I don't allow one-night stays here.
Interesting.
Okay, I just don't have that capability at all, because it's for the housekeeper and all that to spend a couple $100, where it's it's more valuable to not have one-night stays. So I force a 2-night stay, which isn't much more, but that also covers if someone's going to book Saturday, they're going to book Friday too, or they're going to book Sunday, whatever it might be, or they'll do the three nights. That's much more valuable to me. If I were in a downtown or by the airport or something like that, I would absolutely do a one night, or I had a smaller place. If I had a little 1-bedroom condo or something like those lines, I absolutely would. And so there are some factors that you just have to set up. There's also things where, for example, you can set it so that if somebody books 6 months out, the price is 3 times higher.
Really?
You can set it to do that. So it's like, so for example, just 2 days ago, I had someone book for, let's see, 14 months from now. Wow, 14 months from now. There's a wedding. Their family of a wedding. Their kids are getting married. Their kids are getting married. And so I have it set. If someone's going to book that far out, why not charge more?
Yeah.
Because who cares?
Right.
Who cares if someone wants this place that far down the road, have them pay a lot of money. And so what happens is, as it gets closer, it'll start to lower the price and lower the price and lower the price. And if I have availability tomorrow still, because nobody's booking, the price has gone down significantly, that I might do it, but I also have a minimum. Like, there's no way this place will ever go below $150 a night. It never even gets close to that number. But that's like my low point, worst case scenario, that suddenly people stop traveling, and I would still have that minimum.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, this is all fantastic information, because I would think that I'm a relatively intuitive person. I've been investing in real estate for a long time, and you're just totally destroying a lot of the preconceived notions I had about how Airbnb and VRBO works.
All right, hopefully you liked part 1 of that interview. In the next segment of the interview, we're going to be talking about VRBO versus Airbnb, as well as a whole host of different topics on how to set some prices and different things like that. So make sure that you stick around and watch that segment. You can just click on it right here.